So we're going to get into this story now. I saw this over the weekend. I have not had a chance to look into it yet, but there is an executive order out there via the Trump administration that essentially allows whichever political party is in power, whoever has power in office, to essentially control and censor the internet, which isn't a good thing. Is it concerning that Silicon Valley, via entities like Facebook, Twitter, and Google, get to essentially decide what is and isn't free speech? Yes, that's very concerning. But the answer is not, oh, well, let's just let Republicans and Democrats dictate what is and isn't free speech. That's not necessarily the answer. The answer is policy that protects consumers. That's what it is. But anyway, here's this executive order that a lot of folks are sounding the alarm about, including Fight for the Future. And Tim shares this, and Inks Pixels shared this as well. So you guys want to talk about this today, which is the right thing, because this is an important thing that's going on. So let's look into this Common Dreams article right now. Leaked draft of Trump executive order to censor the internet denounced as dangerous. Yeah, no kidding. And it's unconstitutional. So here's a quote. In practice, this executive order would mean that whichever political party is in power could dictate which speech is allowed on the internet. Say that 5 times fast, by the way. In practice, this executive order would mean that whichever political party is in power could dictate which speech is allowed on the internet. In practice, the political party dictates what you see on the internet. What kind of parties you can see. I'm trying to think of other P words for content. Anyway, civil liberties groups are warning of a major threat to online freedoms and First Amendment rights if a leaked draft of a Trump administration edict, dubbed by critics as a censor the internet executive order that would give powerful federal agencies far-reaching powers to pick and choose which kind of internet material is not acceptable, is allowed to go in effect. Man, the premise of this show is that we're seeing everything for the first time. So people tweet me articles and we go through the news together. I've never seen this article before. This is my first time seeing the article. And when you have a show that's set up this way, one thing you always thank goodness for are run-on sentences. You love them. You're just like, yes, a run-on sentence. Oh boy, I might need a breath. I might need a sip of coffee. Keep it up with those run-on sentences. All right, little bit of a run-on sentence there in the first paragraph. Just saying. Let's go back to the article. All right. According to CNN, which obtained a copy of the draft, the new rule calls for the FCC to develop new regulations clarifying how and when the law protects social media websites when they decide to remove or suppress content on their platforms. Although still in its early stages and subject to change, the Trump administration's draft order also calls for the FTC to take those new policies into account when it investigates or files lawsuits against misbehaving companies. Okay. When Politico was the first to report how the draft was being circulated by the White House, CNN notes that it put into effect the order would reflect a significant escalation by President Trump and his frequent attacks against social media companies over an alleged but unproven systemic bias against conservatives by technology platforms. And it could lead to a significant reinterpretation of the law that its authors have insisted was meant to give tech companies broad freedom to handle content as they see fit. So here's what Fight for the Future says. The White House just leaked a draft executive order that would give the would give the government the power to censor the internet. We have to stop it. So here's what Evan Greer, Deputy Director of Fight for the Future and friend of this show, here's what she has to say. It's hard to put into words how mind-bogglingly absurd this executive order is. In the name of defending free speech, it would allow mass government censorship of online content. In practice, it means whichever party is in power can decide which speech is allowed on the internet. PEN America, which defends the free expression of writers, journalists, and others, warned that any executive order based on this draft rule would be an unconstitutional, anti-American edict. So here's some more thoughts from Fight for the Future for an action alert that they put out. The leaked documents show that the Trump administration is drafting an executive order that, if upheld by the court, could essentially end free speech on the internet. The draft will put the FTC and the FCC, headed by its notoriously corrupt chairman, Ajit Pai, in charge of monitoring and policing online speech and social media platforms, online forums, and more. It would give these bureaucratic government agencies unprecedented control over how internet platforms moderate speech by allowing them to revoke the essential protections Congress laid out in Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. CDA 230 is the basic law that makes it possible for online platforms to let users post our own content and to make basic decisions about what types of content they as private entities want to host. Every meme, every social media post, every blog and user-created video on the internet has been made possible by this crucial free speech protection. In practice, this executive order would mean that whichever political party is in power could dictate which speech is allowed on the internet. If the government doesn't like the way a private company is moderating content, they can shut the entire website down. So basically, we have an issue with Facebook and Silicon Valley and all these big tech companies kind of being able to dictate what is and isn't free speech. And here's the Trump administration's response to that. Hey, let us dictate what is and isn't free speech. You see how this isn't a solution. This is the wrong solution. And other digital rights entities have said this. They're like, look, we're concerned about what's going on with Silicon Valley too. It's a concerning thing. A lot of these social media platforms, Lucy, what's wrong? Lucy's concerned. Look how concerned Lucy is about free speech on the internet. I hope you can hear her, by the way. She's meowing over there. She's very concerned about this. Lucy, I get it. You're a digital rights activist. I get it completely. I don't know what do you see something? Is there a fly or something? She's going nuts. Lucy, come on. Why don't you come over here and hang? Come hang out. Yeah, there it is. Are you concerned about the article? You worried? I don't know. She stopped. She just wanted pet, I guess. But anyway, so you see how this is not a solution. They want to take that power that Facebook has, that YouTube has, that Google has, and just put it in the hands of the government. Instead, what they should do is that all these entities that have become commonplace and have become the E-squares in our lives should just be designated public utilities, and they should be regulated as such. So anyway, you see how this is not the right answer, and this would just give whatever political party, as the Fight for the Future says, whichever political party is in charge, they can just dictate what Facebook allows, what YouTube allows, what Twitter allows, what Google allows. So they're basically just kind of trading overreaching power. They'll be like, hey, is it concerning that Silicon Valley has all this overreaching power that they're not qualified to handle? They shouldn't. They're not free speech experts. They're not supposed to be able to dictate what we can and can't see, but they've become utilities in our lives, so they need to be designated as a public utility. Isn't that an issue? Yes, it's an issue. Trump administration, we have a solution. Let us dictate things. Let us have overreaching authoritarian power over the internet. That'll fix it. We'll do it via an executive order. You see how this is another, for instance, of your government not serving you at all? Hey, we have a problem here. We got an idea to make it way worse. We can make it even worse. And then you're going to get people that are going to respond to this, be like, well, you were talking about Silicon Valley and saying how it was a concern. Now look at what we get. Look at what we get now. So in other words, let's not advocate to change anything for the better in our lives. Let's just keep our mouths shut, because otherwise the government's going to make it worse. That sounds like democracy, doesn't it? That sounds like, don't upset the prison guards or we'll get another lashing. That's what that sounds like. I'm just saying all this stuff preemptively because I guarantee you that's going to be on the blogosphere later today. There's going to be people say, well, you guys were concerned about free speech issues when Facebook was overreaching and you were saying that this needs to be a utility. Well, now Trump just issued this horrible executive order that's out there. This is making it even worse. So you're the problem. You should have shut up. Don't upset the prison guards. That's a profile in courage, by the way. And when you see people spreading ideas like that later on social media, which they will, just remember that. That's a true profile in courage. Don't speak up for something that's right because your government might make it worse. And when they do make it worse, it's not because of our corrupt system that needs to change. It's because people spoke out about something that was unjust. Man, that's, again, profile and courage. Don't make the prison guards mad, or we'll get another Lucy's saying that too. She's like, yeah, this executive order is BS. She gets it. All right. So that's what's out there. That's going on right now. And you can go to action here. Let me make sure I get the website right, because there's a call to action here. actionnetwork.org. Here, I'll show you the picture again. You can check out Fight for the Future on Twitter and actionnetwork.org. And I will retweet this petition too as well.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your